All right, good afternoon, everybody. Those of you in the States or any part of the world, I don't know your time zone, but those in the US, I say good afternoon to you. Those in Liberia, I say good evening to you and welcome to Liberia Indeed Shall Rise. I am your host, Augustine Sharif. And today is Mental Health Sunday, so you know exactly who's going to be here. Dr. Quida Robert is going to be joining me, and we are going to be discussing teens mental wellness. Those of you who are teenagers, those of you who are teenagers, I will suggest this is open to you. It will be very informative, and we just want you to come with open mind and be ready to receive some information that I truly believe will be beneficial to not just you but someone that you may know. And say again, we say welcome to Liberia Sharive. Welcome to the Mental Health Sunday segment. But before we go live, though, I got to say something very, very special here. Um, I want to send a special shout out here to Dr. Roberts. She's going to be joining me. But look, to write a book, guys, I'm gonna find my copy here. There's my copy. There is that book called Whispers Beneath the Silence. And just the image of the cover of this book is telling a story, right? And so Dr. Roberts has not only just been doing, what is mentoring or counseling or talking to people, working with families, survivors of domestic violence. She has been doing it all. But now we can say she put it in print where we can actually go and read some stories, find ourselves in the stories, even though you have a woman on the back of that book. But it is very likely, and it is likely, that most men also go through that same kind of abuse because we are macho, we are men. We don't want our friends to laugh at us that our wives are abusing us, so we hide it, and we carry that silence around and confide in few people, whether it's our therapist or our parents or someone. We will confide in someone trustworthy. But so men also suffer abuse. But this is a great book. It's a great read. We are going to be discussing the book. I really want to do it next week Sunday. I want to do it next week Sunday before I travel, so I'm looking forward to that. But it is going to be a great, great read. And basically, like I said, the information that you have in here may not be for you, but it may be for someone that you know who is going through some sort of, depression, someone who's going through some hardship. So look, best thing you can do is to support our own Liberian author, uh, but not just because she's Liberian, but because what she have written and her experiences and what she have put on paper that would benefit someone. So all of my friends, rush, go to Amazon, get yourself a copy. It's less than one burrito, I promise you. The cost of the book is less than one burrito. Real good burrito. It's less than that. So get yourself a copy, bless someone with it, read it together. If you are part of the book club, hey, join a book club, read it together and share this information because it's going to be a tremendous blessing to everybody. So I would get Dr. Roberts to come on the show, but before we do so, though, I would just, I love music. So people say 50 Cents, my brother. So I love music. I will go ahead and just play something here real quick. Once we come back, we will definitely jump into the show and get it going. Stay tuned.
Oh, hail Liberia, hail. Oh, hail Liberia, hail. This glorious land of liberty shall long be ours. The new home name, great be her fame, and mighty
Oh man, I can sit here and listen to this rendition of the Liberia's national anthem forever. Good job, man, to our artist who actually put this together. We are super excited. Hey guys, stay tuned, man. We are having some technical problem. Facebook, we are having that too. I think we're just going to share the broadcast on YouTube and share it on our Facebook page because right now we are not synchronized with Facebook at this point in time. I don't know what's up, but we will get it fixed eventually. We'll get it going. All right. So, but before we do that, let me bring Dr. Roberts on the show. Let's talk about just her accomplishment. Dr. Roberts, how you doing today, my good friend and sister? How you doing?
Happy Sunday. How are you?
Man, I am good, but I gotta say though, you probably over the moon because of your accomplishment. I think I just want to say you ended 2025 very well.
Yeah.
And, with the graduation, all that beautiful thing, kids graduating, and then you just roll right into the sunset with this beautiful publication. So talk about the book just a little bit, talk about the book a little bit, because I gave you a shout out. So I know we're going to find a segment to discuss the book,
Yeah.
but let's talk just a little bit about how you feeling about this publication.
Well, thank you for the shout out, of course. This book is a masterpiece. And it's not because I wrote it. Yes,
Yeah.
I wrote it, but it's a masterpiece. This book does not even describe the work that I have been doing over the last 20 plus years, working with domestic violence victims,
Mm,
families, and so there's a lot in this book when it comes to some of the stories that I share, but also from a therapist lens,
mm,
sitting in and walking this journey with women, with men, walking this journey. I owe it to them to use this as a way to honor them, to
yeah.
honor their strength, to honor their resilience, seeing some of what I walked through. Many times as therapists, as healthcare providers, we take on our patients, clients, we take on their pain, their suffering. I had a professor that once told me a true therapist can never really remove themselves from the suffering of the clients, right?
Mm,
You
mm.
sit in there with them, you cry with them, you get messy with them. And so some of these stories, it was almost as if I was walking through it.
Wow.
Okay. So this book is more than a healing path. It's something to sit, reflect. Of course, you journey on through, and I'm not going to give all of it because I want you to buy the book.
Yes, they
I'm
have
I'm
to.
going I'm
So
going
I
to
I was
leave
I
it.
was about to stop you. I said, don't give too much away because this book myself, I got to benefit from it.
Yeah. So, and everybody, and if you have not experienced it, you know somebody, let it be a gift. Look, it's
Yeah,
less than $20.
yeah.
Grab a copy, give it to a friend, give it to a aunt, a sister, your daughter. You can prevent abuse from your daughter or young woman by giving them this book. So, get a copy of this book. Thank me later. And if you do have a copy, let me know what your insights, your impression of the book, and what your experience actually reading and going through this book. So I will leave it as that. I'm
Okay.
grateful to be able to contribute uh, to the work that I do, and there's many more coming, and I'm just grateful to everybody who have supported thus far. And thank you, Sharif, for supporting and encouraging me.
Man, I am super excited. I think next week, I really want to do the book next week. I want us to sit and talk about all the meat in the book, not giving too much away, but we'll discuss it next week. I'm super excited about that. But look, I know the hard work that goes into the stories, the time, the editing and the re-editing. I know the hard work that go into it. So this is a great accomplishment. Congratulations to you. And we
Yep.
will definitely dig more into it next week. But today,
Thank
however,
you.
yeah, today, however, though, we are going to be talking about, I think March is teens, mental wellness. Awareness Month. So,
Mhm.
talking about teenagers, talking about people, young people, you are a mother of some wonderful men. And every time I see your post about your sons, you know,
Mhm.
the way you post it, you call them king, you call them the man, the noble man, the way you uplift them. So I thought, hey, you would be the best person to actually talk about teens' mental health because you got some great men around you, right? Whether from kids to teenagers. So look, this is a great topic, and I will be digging your brain as a mother, but I'll also be looking at you as a therapist. I'm going to be
Mhm.
balancing both of those. So let's just jump right into it. When we talk about, teens' mental wellness, when we talk about teenagers' mental wellness, what are we really talking about? Is it just another lingo? What does that all look like if we talk about teens' mental wellness?
Yeah, so when we talk about teen mental awareness, which again, I thought this was such an incredible topic, and when because we really don't put a lot of pressure on teens. When we think about childhood to teenagers, we really see most teenagers as this age where they're carefree. Okay,
Mm,
there's
mm,
not much going on there. They're just enjoying life. They don't really care for what's going on. They're having fun with their friends. All of that stuff is true. However, when we think about teen wellness, it's more than an illness, right? It's more than the absence of an illness. We are talking about a teen's ability to cope with stress,
mm,
to maintain healthy and build healthy relationships, to regulate their emotions, to develop a sense of identity, self worth. And again, that will include emotional, psychological, social, which we know is a big part of it, and as well as physical, because there's a lot happening that developmental critical stage
mm.
where they're trying to make decisions. And we know for many teens, when we say critical, they can be influenced by their peer group. So that decision making stage where the brain is forming, to adulthood, we have all of that difficult and critical stage into teen mental wellness. So we want to focus on the wellness end, which is the absence of course, the illnesses that we usually combine with things.
Wow, and that, I mean, you put so much information in there, and I want to try to unpack it as slowly as I
Mhm,
can because I don't want to just overlook it. Let's talk about the emotional piece of it, right? When you talk about the emotion,
mhm,
because we know as from the babies, the kids start to grow, you get to your daughter or your son gets to age 14, and
mhm,
from all studies, from all indications, that 14 is that critical age group where, in
mhm.
most cases, mental health really start to kick in, right? So let's talk
Right.
about that emotional awareness because sometimes I think we confuse it and we miss some critical piece of information because we'll just say, oh, I mean, she's coming of age or she just want to be by herself, or just like, oh, you know what, teenagers. So we miss a
Mhm,
lot of good information because we just automatically assume, well, they are just being teenagers. They want to keep to
mhm,
themselves. They want to avoid their parents because their parents are no longer cool for them. And that is where I want to bring you in because when you
mhm,
talk for your men, your boys in your life, I am just so always blessed every time I see that the way you and your men, I mean your boys, really engage. So let's talk about that critical emotional stage when it comes to that wellness. Why is that emotional stage really,
mhm.
really critical? Why is it important?
Yeah, and thank you. Speaking of the boys, I in passing, I mentioned we're going to go out, innocently for brunch, and boy, they helped me to eat this morning. They came ready, Mom. Do we still have that brunch date? And I look forward to that because, of course, we have a opportunity outside of the traditional home setting to
Mhm.
just go and chat about everyday type of things. So emotionally, we know there are a lot of homos going on when it comes to the teenage stage, and a lot is happening. their friendships, their school, life as a whole, what they will become of life. So they are trying to make sense of all of these things. And then there's this fluctuation of hormones because we understand that developmentally around that period there is probably puberty, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they have these changes in their mood where sometimes we as parents don't quite understand what's happening. And then for boys and girls, you have the body, not only the mood, but then you have the physical changes where, they're getting taller, they're growing facial hair. Um, I'm sorry, they're growing facial hair. You know, for the girls, they're growing breasts, the hips are kind of widening a little bit. We see these physical changes. And come on, when we go back to our teenage time, we know that it didn't happen easily. Some people got acne on the face, what
Mm-hmm.
we call, pimpers, and you get teased, you get bullied because, things don't usually get right. And this is where many young people struggle. Sometimes, if they don't feel safe, where the family has not provided this open dialogue, conversation type places where they can just come out and talk, they don't feel safe. It makes it difficult for them to come and tell mom or dad, this is what's happening to me. So they hold it in. And what we can see, yes, many times they don't want to talk to us because they don't feel safe, or we have not provided an environment where they feel invited to come and say, yeah, it's what's happening to me, right?
Mm.
Uh, and I use my boys for example. Many times now, I have my last two who are teenagers. They will come in and the mood, the faces, and I'm like, okay, you want to be left alone, right? And people always say, oh, boys don't have any attitude. It's the girls. No, the boys have it too, and sometimes it's bad. So when I see that, I'm like, you know what? He don't want to talk. I just leave them alone. And after like 30 minutes or so, I go back. Is everything okay? Yeah, mom. What you think? Everything? I'm like, no, because you don't look yourself. Like, what happened, right?
Yeah.
Uh, do you want to talk about it? No, I don't want to talk about it. So I respect the space. And then there are times they will come back and say, yeah, actually this happened. I can't believe this happened. And some happened at school today. And I can't believe, this went down or my friend did this to me. And what do you think? So then we have the time to talk about it.
Mm.
But there are sometimes they don't talk about it until a day later,
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes a week later, because they're trying to figure things out at this age developmentally. Remember now, they are going into adulthood. So
Mm.
they are trying to make these concrete decisions about things and they're trying to figure things out on their own. And sometimes the way that it even responds to us, we may think that's so disrespectful, that's
Yeah.
so rude. Oh, I just want to be left alone, okay? I mean, right now, I don't want to talk. An African household, you probably will get a few words out of there. But, like we have to tell them, okay, honey, you know what? That's not the best way to say that. I understand if you don't want to talk, that's okay. But you can say now is not the best time.
Sure.
Okay. And then I understand it's not the best time. When you want to talk, we would talk, or I always leave it open. Okay. When you are ready to talk, I'm here. And then when they are ready to talk, if I'm on my phone, I put my phone down. If I'm talking to somebody, I give them my attention because remember, we are talking about that safe space where we say, want to invite them to be able to talk. So if they don't have nowhere to vent or to unload all of that stuff, to unpack all of that emotional stress that's happening there, they don't feel safe to come to you to release all of that. It stays here.
Hmm.
and it
Okay.
shows up with a decrease in the grades, and we'll talk about all that.
Yeah, no, no. Seriously, I think as you speak about the emotional piece of this developmental stage, and also you talk about the critical piece as to why this emotion is super important to the teens. We don't want to miss too many points. We don't want to get to a place where we say, "Well, that's just a teenager stuff. Teenagers do that," and so we might miss some critical. You said some wonderful things here regarding your relations with your boys. When they come in, they don't want to talk, but you're providing that space. I was tempted to jump on that, but I know I got a question regarding that particular one. How you get your teams to get engaged and communicate with you. We'll get to that point. But I want to also go back though, because when you spoke about the overall health, what it means when we speak of teenage wellness, also talk about the psychological piece of this, right? The
Mhm.
psychology involved, what is taking place, all these different things that are coming together. So let's just spend maybe few minutes on the psychological piece of this overall wellness. I know they're trying to find themselves. Psychologically, they are not in a space where they can articulate, they can say exactly what they want to say. Psychologically, that emotion is imbalanced. You're going up and down.
Mhm.
So let's just talk about that psychological piece, because sometimes I know you just mentioned the African parents. Man, I'm just biting my tongue. I'm waiting for my time. We talk about the
Mhm.
African parents, but many times we don't give them that space. We don't give them that time. So let's just talk about the psychology involved in this whole body, whole wellness for the teenager.
Mhm. So developmentally, we know this every stage developmentally. When we talk about from an infant, they grow. So like 0 to maybe 12 months, right? Then we have from 12 to 24 months, and we have 24 months to about maybe 4 years. So
Mm,
developmentally, there are different things happening.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and so when we talk about the brain forming and what's happening developmentally for teenagers, uh, we have to understand that many times decision making, which happens in like the frontal lobe area there, for teenagers, they are having that time where they are formulating and learning how to formulate decisions at that time. So a lot is confusing,
Sure.
even for us. Uh, so making sure that we are understanding the stages of that. So roughly from about 11 to 21, I think I spoke about puberty, where they're
Mhm.
trying to find themselves, that identity. Okay. They are navigating a lot of complex relationships, friendships, peer relationship. Okay. Maybe they might be dating or what have you. And they are establishing that sense of self. So, children between 11 to about 14, they're going through this growth spurt, right?
Mm,
And typically girls, they experience a lot of acne. I don't know why, but the skin changes, the body changes, and that's between early adolescence, where we have body odor for some kids. If they haven't learned how to clean themselves properly, proper hygiene, the smell, okay? The armpits. So, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to get beat down after this life, but, you know, you have to remind them, use your
sure.
deodorant. But I did. Okay, take a shower. But I did. So, that's hormonal. There's a lot happening there.
Yeah.
So, when you have a child who is very relaxed about the hygiene, and you have a parents who is not onto that, remember they can get teased about that
Sure.
because they wake up in the morning, they don't brush their teeth, they don't
And let's
care.
go. Yeah.
They get up and they go to school. And imagine if they're not taking shower, on the armpit hair is growing, all of that type of stuff. For boys, they're experiencing like enlargement of their testicles and all of those things that's freaking them out. They're having wet dreams. And I remember having this conversation with my boys. There's a book that I use in therapy, so I purchased it, and of course I use it at home with my boys. It talks about the changes in the body during puberty. There's a girl book and there's a boy book. So I had the conversation, and they are looking at me like, "Why are you talking about these things?"
Why are we talking about this? Why are we having this conversation right
So
there?
yeah, but we had it. We had it at 9 years old, and I wanted to prep them 9, 10. Of course, it's very age appropriate. And when you are having these conversations, you want to make sure that they are age appropriate for your children. Don't
Sure.
be giving them things that are not age appropriate. So then we have what we call middle adolescent, which is from 14 to about 17 years old, right?
Mm.
So they still fall in that teen adolescent, uh, where again the physical changes continues. And I noticed within my boys, I noticed sometimes one leg will be shorter than the other.
Hmm.
Um, and they were kind of unbalanced. And I will ask, especially the ones that are taller, and they look weird, they walk weird. And I will ask, what's going on? Why are you walking like that? And sometimes, out of ignorance, I would say, why are you doing that? You're not, you're doing that on purpose. And then my other son reminded me, well, mom, you do know that one leg is shorter than the other. And I'm like, oh, that's right. I forgot. But of course, it's happening at times that we don't know. So around that age, also for boys, you hear the voice change. They
Sure.
start to get this deep
Deep
bass. And
voice. Yeah.
exactly. And girls, they're usually completing because they start early and they complete earlier. So they're usually completing their growth spurts where they're now having regular periods. For some girls, it started at 9 years old. Now they're starting it early, very early on.
Wow.
Uh, so that's like that middle adolescent from 14 to 17. And then we have the late adolescence, which is from 18 to 21, where puberty typically has completed, just little changes here and there. But cognitively, mentally, what's happening? They're
Hmm.
shifting from that concrete thought, to more problem solving. This is
Sure.
where they don't need us anymore. They need us, but they don't need us anymore,
And
right?
that's where you moms you can't handle that, and you begin
That's
to feel like,
where we can handle it because honestly, rejection is real. That rejection is real. When your
oh
child
man,
start going to their friends, and and you want to control it, and you are like, what they know, they don't know more than me. What you think? Like,
oh man. But
yeah.
Jack, I want to interrupt you here for a second because I think you're going into my next question, which is really
Mhm,
good. This conversation is great. But I want to go to, let's talk about some of the factors, though. Some of the factors, speaking of rejection, but some of the factors that can negatively impact the mental wellness of the young people or the teenagers. Let me not just generalize and say young people, but teenagers. Let's focus on teenagers for a second.
mhm,
Some of the factors that can negatively impact them. Now,
mhm.
let's talk about those, and I'm sure some of that piece that you already bring it in will be part of that packet as well. So let's talk about some of the factors that will negatively impact our teams in our home. And feel free
I
to give me the dirt on the boys if you know. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
well, right now, I think it's important to focus on right now, as in real time, what's happening. We cannot negate the fact that social media,
Mm,
cyberbullying is
wow.
a huge negative factor when it
Mm,
comes to our teens. In fact, I was reading, I think it was a report from New York Times that was saying that a mother won a case for her teen against Facebook Meta, Instagram, and they were saying that the exposure to Instagram negatively impacted her daughter, cyber bullying and all of these things, and it was bad. And of course, we've heard and read and seen many stories where teenagers will take their lives. We
Hmm.
see that a lot of the times they use social media to hurt one another. So that's a big area where we see a lot of negative impact. Social media. Children can get pictures, and it's not always Facebook or Instagram or Meta. Text messages, WhatsApp, they smear these pictures all over, they share it in these chain text, and it gets very, very ugly. So we see these unrealistic standards that we get from society. I think is getting a lot better now, but there's unrealistic and need for validation.
Sure.
Everybody wants to feel validated. That's a true statement. I don't think you can wake up and have people around you and don't want them to validate you. That's a good thing. So, but the negative piece of that is we seek validation from places and people that are not able to give us validation,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So now then we internalize it, and we make it about something's wrong with me.
Sure.
So if I'm not able to validate myself, chances are I won't be able to validate you. And most of these friends and peers that we are seeking validation from, they're all about themselves. They don't care about you and whether you look good, or whether you're working hard, or I see you. Sometimes we throw these things out there even as adults. We struggle to validate one another. You
Sure.
see how you validated me about my book, Sharif. So many people that I trust, that are friends, they have yet to share or to just say, Quita, congratulations. Because that's validation that they don't want me to have, right?
Hmm.
They feel that in so doing, maybe I will be bigger or I will be better or something. So we withhold that. So imagine teenagers too, where they're trying to make all of these things, make sense of all of these things, those unrealistic standard, and this pressure to be validated. A
Hmm.
few years ago, we knew of a lot of cases, and we saw lots of cases where there were a huge eating disorder, right?
Yeah, I
Uh,
remember that. Yep. Yeah.
Pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
We still see it, not as prevalent as it was before, because there has been a lot of exposure and awareness to that. But in some areas, it's still there. It still exists. Um, Validated. They want it to be. They want to be, and in order to be, you have to look a certain way. You
Sure.
have to be this skinny, right?
Yeah.
So kids don't eat, or they eat and they, take out their food, they starve themselves, they use medications, they use pill, and the list goes on. So,
Yeah, but the Dr. Roberts, I want us to stay on that for a second because I want to transition here real quick and get to Liberia. Because I always joke with people in Liberia. I said, look, it just seemed as though the cell phone was made in China and the US and other Western countries, but it just seemed as though it was made for Liberians.
mhm,
Because right now, Liberians, the way they have to think about cell phone, look, you can have someone in that country where they don't even know where the next meal is going to come from. But if
mhm,
they have a $5, they have a $5 or $2, they would rather take that bill and go and buy data to put it in that phone than for
mhm,
them to put food on the table. Most of the time, I've seen the extreme situation. I've seen it. The younger children, the teenagers, and everybody is up at the cell phone, the cell phone, the cell phone, the usage.
mhm,
And then and in most cases, they are not using it for, I don't know, enhancement. When I say enhancement, I'm talking about educational enhancement. I'm
mhm,
using it because I need to stay in touch with family. But they are using it because it gives them the edge to be able to self promote.
Mm-hmm.
to get validation. So when you are speaking of validation, there's, in my opinion, there's this positive validation and there's this self-seeking negative validation. And I
Mm-hmm.
think most of it, what we see most of the time is that negative piece of the validation that
Mm-hmm.
most of our young people in our country, they are going out and they are doing crazy things. They are promoting themselves, putting themselves on Facebook. I saw one video where someone just took a bucket of water and go to Red Light Market and just stand there and start taking bath in the middle of the street just for content creation. So let's talk about that in the Liberian context, the way social media have actually put pressure on the young people in the country, teenagers, if they don't have a phone. It used to be if you don't have rice for a day, then you haven't eaten. But right now, they don't have a cell phone, they don't have credit in that phone. If it calls them to call, reach out to someone overseas and send them naked pictures so that person can put data on their phone, that's what they're going to do. That's what they have to do. So let's talk about that negative validation that we seek, especially when it comes to our brothers and sisters in Liberia.
Yeah, yeah. And the internet is a great tool to connect. It's a great way to connect with your family, to stay in touch, to meet friends, to learn, to educate yourself. Awareness is such a great tool if it's used for the right reason. And many times we see that people use it for the wrong reason, such as what we're speaking about, that negative attention seeking, negative validation. And Liberia is not one that is a stranger to this. We see it
Mhm.
everywhere around
Sure,
the world,
sure.
where people are on social media now. I think they're going to monetize a lot of the content in Liberia. So it's a good thing. But I was saying to somebody the other day, I'm curious as to what we're going to be seeing on
What are
that
we going to
internet.
see?
Because for the sake of content, we're going to see a lot of things, and sometimes it is derogatory, it is demeaning, and but you're out there for the sake of content. You're trying to get these things, and you're absolutely right. People will do anything. In fact, most people, teenagers too, when you are coming to Liberia, the first thing they tell you, bring me phone, oh, try hard, bring me, and they will give you what they want. Bring me iPhone, right? Like iPhone is cheap. Bring me iPhone, 14, or bring me iPhone 17, or bring me Samsung. I'm like, if I'm bringing you a phone as a gift, I will bring you what I can afford. Okay,
Sure,
first and
sure.
foremost. But we want that to be out there. We want that to, to reach the masses, to connect, and like you said, many times in a negative way. Look at me. Look, Sharif, I have had people who literally are looking at everything we do in the States. And when I go home, they are telling me, oh, you think you're the only one can go on vacation? You're the only one drawing. You're the only one, doing your nails. We're doing our own too. We living here too. And I'm like, first of
Okay,
all, yeah, exactly. I am living my life. I
sure.
don't think about you and you comparing it, and that's the negative impact. We
Yeah,
use the phone and we see others and we want to compare that life to be validated. Again, it goes back to that person not giving you that validation. So
yeah.
you're posting all of these things because they were gonna go on your comment. Oh, life in your favor. Oh, you enjoying life. Oh, so if they don't do it, then they're jealous.
Yes.
Then they're haters. Then they envy you. Oh, look how the people they want us to enjoy life too. But maybe that type of stuff, I'm not impressed by it. I'm
Yeah.
happy for you though, but I'm not impressed. And this is why we need to understand when we post, especially for our young people, there have been many content creators that have recently committed suicide. Why? It's because you get so popular as the content are coming, people are liking it, you get so big, larger than who you are in real life. And then after a while, people lose interest. They get bored. Now you have seen that as your value. That's who you are.
And
You
see, and
you
see, and
have
see, and see, Doc, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I think that is where that rejection piece that you were talking about with the
yeah.
parent and the child.
Mhm.
because you are used to your phone just click, 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 bing, 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 all of that likes is,
Mhm.
and then we have this generation likes. And now when Sharif withhold, just like, man, I'm not interested in cat video anymore. He
Mhm.
withholds his like, and whatever emoji he was giving you, now you transfer that, you look at that as a rejection, which now
Mhm.
leads to that mental health piece that we're talking about, the depression and all
Mhm.
of this. Yeah, anyway, I'll let you continue the story, but I just want to just slip that in. Yeah.
No, but I think you nailed it because we internalize it. It becomes something wrong with me, right? It
Mhm.
becomes something wrong with me. And then if this person have suffered neglect, abuse, or any kind of family instability or divorce, anything emotionally that will cause us some of that stress, they turn inward and they make it about themselves and everything that has happened that has contributed. They see themselves as worthless,
Wow.
okay,
Mm.
hopeless. There's no need to be here. And so then they start to take the steps to do that. But I wanted to touch on other factors. Of course, we have trauma, right?
Mhm.
Uh, Abuse, neglect, all of those things can be factors towards negatively impacting a teen mental well-being. So
Mm.
we talk about the fitting in, which is huge. I kind of talked about that. They want to fit in. They want to explore identity, sexuality. We have a lot of young people that are claiming to be gay, lesbian. Okay, they are bisexual, they are asexual, there's gender fluid in Liberia. We are seeing a lot of young people coming out. It's
Yeah.
almost like uh I say it's like a thing of fashion.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be it. Everybody wants to do it. They are exploring most of the time that sexuality, and some of the factors too that negatively influence young people is substance use.
Mm.
They want to fit in, they start using, they start smoking, they start to get into drugs. And we know the negative impact is they can get addicted.
Sure.
Okay. So alcohol abuse, drug abuse, and all of that stuff go into their mental wellness. And then of course we have sleep deprivation, which many times is linked to the mood.
Sure.
uh Goes back to, are you sleeping? That's like the first thing I ask my kids. How many hours you slept last night? When something is off, did you sleep? When did you go to bed? Oh, mom, I went to bed like 4 o'clock in the morning. You need to go to sleep, right? Because we know that is linked to poor coping skills. When you are not
Hmm.
fully rested mentally, it limits your ability to cope with things. Since you are tired, you are tired. And again, many times our teens are afraid to ask for help, to seek help if they find themselves in any of these things that I mentioned, where they've been abused, drug use, and all of these things. They're afraid to come to a parent who has not provided a safe space for them to have open dialogue, open
Okay.
conversations.
So we got 15 minutes here to go. Let's transition right into that piece. I think you following my script today. I'm really enjoying the show. So let's transition right into that open space, right? When you talk about that safe space where the teenager should actually come and talk to you and communicate with you. That safe space, on Friday, I was speaking with someone from Liberia. But as I was on the phone with her, I could hear her scolding her children in the back, like, yeah, you guys, y'all need to sit down. You better be lucky I brought food for you. And so she was scolding the children. And so my next question I asked that person was, I said, how was business today? And she said,
Mhm.
oh, they kick us off the street and they move us on the other side. The whole market took on the road, things did not get sold properly. So I had to bring some market home. So I said, it sounds to me like that frustration from the road Your
Mhm.
markets, your relocation, the development people, the plowing the road, the kicking you guys off the street, that frustration, and your goods did not get sold like you would
Mhm.
normally want to go. That frustration from the road, you just brought it home to your children. And as we were talking, this person told me, the person just got silent on the phone.
Mhm.
And then she told me, she said, now you not make me get so guilty. I feel so bad right now. So I said the best way you can actually fix it is to go
Yeah.
and give the children a hug and tell
Yeah.
them
You're
you're sorry.
sorry.
You
That's
know,
right.
and so we're on the phone. It was very strange, I guess to her for me to say stuff like that. And
Mhm.
I'm talking to a sister of mine, and so I said that's the only way you fix it. Give the children a hug
Mhm.
because it's not the kid's fault. But you brought that frustration. Now, since you've been gone today, you just got home from this market. If that
Mhm.
kid wanted to tell you and say, "Hey, mom, guess what? Today I went to school and somebody touched me," you just lost that opportunity. The
That's
space is
right.
only safe. So
Mhm.
let's talk about safe space, especially when it comes to teenager, as I drop that example on you.
Great example, and thank you for that. And thank you too, for being an advocate for those kids, because absolutely that's how we learn. When we have these moments where we can use as a learning opportunity, we utilize it to seize the moment and to teach, to educate. This is how you sounded. Here is how we can change it. So in the future now, she's going to think twice when she goes back to respond in that way or react in that way. She would stop and respond. So that was excellent. That was your social worker brain going there. So, creating that safe space that is judgment free. First of all,
Mhm.
we must listen more and lecture less. Listen more and lecture less. How many of us remember the long hour conversations our parents had with us? We don't. 3 minutes into it, we blank off.
With that, yeah.
You listening to me? Yeah. You hear what I'm saying? Yeah. Repeat after me. And you say, I'm gonna go on the road again after 9 o'clock. Okay, because that's what I picked up because I know it was important to repeat that after you, or else I was going to get beat. So brevity, don't have your conversations extended for more than 3 to 5 minutes. Keep it short, 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, make sure that you focus in on the key thing. What is the problem? Identify the problem, and let's speak to that problem. Leave out everything that they did the weeks before, the months before. Create that safe space where you can be present for
Mm,
them. Quality matters. Quality over quantity. You want to give them your quality time. If even you want to talk to them or you want them to get used to having a conversation with you, sometimes go for a walk outside of the home. You know, Sometimes too many people around, they don't want to talk to you. In Liberia, maybe you can just walk in the neighborhood or find somewhere outside the church, somewhere outside, somewhere you can always find somewhere to
sure.
talk. Um, so that quality time, one-on-one time matters. And be your mood matters. I can't say that you should come talk to me and then I vest. My mom push her, and what you want, Tona? And you come and talk to me, but you're not talking it, forget it. No.
Yeah.
You know, I have to have a space where I am welcoming. They feel invited. So check your shoulders. Make sure that it's relaxed. Make sure that your facial expression is relaxed. No frown. If you don't feel like smiling, that's fine. If you can, have a little nice effect on your face. But remember, it must feel welcoming. How would you welcome your guests? Will you bring people in your home and have your mouth push your air kaizana? No.
I love it when you say the colloquia because your colloquia still gets some kind of Siri on it. But keep going.
I'm done with you. You got no faith in me.
The one when you go to Liberia, the people can eat your eyeball because when you go ask for something, you say that one there, how much? They say, oh, okay, she's not from here.
And that my best colloquial I can be on to.
But no, but
Yeah.
you making so good. You making all of these wonderful points, right? But I'm saving the best for last.
Mhm.
I want us to look at some signs. I got two more
Mhm.
questions here for you, but I want us to look at some signs. You
Mhm.
know, again, you can see your sons, you can see your children and say, man, that person just being moody. This person is having a bad day. I'm very blessed. I work in the office. When I get to the office, sometimes I look at my people there in the office. I say, are you all right? I'm asking question because what I saw yesterday, the expression you gave me yesterday, and the way
Mhm.
we've been interacting this week, there's something completely off. And so I'm asking that question, and that person understands that, look, I've just noticed that something is off about you today. Do you want to talk? Especially
Mhm.
my employees that report to me, do you want to talk? Do you need some time? And so I'm asking those questions because I don't want to sit in the office with you for 8 hours and we're going to be having attitude all day today.
Mhm. Mhm.
So let's try to sit. Let's talk. Get your coffee. I'll get my coffee. Let's meet somewhere. Let's sit and let's talk in the break room or somewhere. And so, how do you spot the signs? Like when you're looking at your teenager, how can you tell and just like, man, we really need to have this conversation now? Or I think my teen is depressed. What signs should we look for as parents? What are some of those things to look for?
Mhm. Yeah, so if you know your child, obviously you will know when something is off. So, and usually it start off with the mood swings, the mood changes. Sometimes they are irritable, they're angry, they're sad, right?
Mm,
Uh, and it's that persistent sadness. So it's not just I'm sad for a few hours and then it's done. No, it's persistent. And the mood changes where somebody who used to be happy all of a sudden they get sad, right? Somebody who used to talk a lot, they get quiet. They don't want to talk. They want to be left alone. They withdraw from their family. They withdraw from their friends. They start losing interest, which we know the depression comes in there. Uh, their grace starts to drop. Okay, they're losing interest in a child who was making all A's. Now they're like D's, and you asking them what happened. I just don't care about school anymore, or I
mm,
just don't like school anymore. Appetite, they're eating too much or they're not eating at all, right? So you see little changes here in their appetite. And then there's risky behaviors. Yeah, in America, we see children cut themselves or they may use reckless options or whatever ways to, do that. They're complaining about headaches. Sometimes they're complaining about stomach aches, and that's a lot of anxiety when you hear about the stomach and I feel nauseous and I have lots, that's anxiety. Something is happening that is making them nervous,
mm.
right? So I always ask, tell me about the stomach. What do you feel and how do you feel it? Uh, I mentioned the talkness, sometimes to talk about being hopeless. They don't
Yeah.
see life, they don't see a future. Life doesn't seem to be something that they look forward to anymore. Uh, these are things that we have to pay immediate attention to. Sometimes they may tell you, I'm tired, nothing matters anymore, nothing makes sense anymore, it's not worth it anymore. Those are some signs that they're starting to feel hopeless.
Hmm. Well, I've one of the things I've heard, Doc, is the this constant thing. Two things. Apart from our dads in our country or other people saying boys don't cry, which that's another
Mhm.
topic for another day. Another thing I've heard the most of, especially from African parents. That's why when you started earlier, I said I'm gonna hold my peace on that. When I say
Mhm.
African parents, I'm not speaking about parents, African parents in the diaspora, because you're in the diaspora, chances are you've learned some new skills. You can't be in America and say, I'm gonna take stick and beat my son. You have learned
Mhm.
some new skills, so you have acclimated to society
Mhm.
differently. But when I say African parents, I'm speaking directly to Liberia, right? One of
Mhm.
the things that I've heard so many times, they can say American children, they are different from Liberian children.
Mhm.
And so all of this that we have discussed, with the emotional well-being of the child, psychological well-being of the child. We've also looked at the depression, the anxiety, the technology use. We also talk about when to have the conversation with the child, and we talk about the risk factor to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
Are these things that we have just discussed, are they applicable to our nephews, our cousins, our little brothers and sisters in Liberia? Are they applicable across to them as well? Or is it all American thing and Liberian children are different? They can cope, they can deal with resilience, they're okay.
Mm-hmm. Great questions. So we are humans, right? And that is what we have in common. The fact that we are humans, we all cry, we all laugh, we all bleed. Whether you're in America, whether you're in Liberia, we are humans. Our children are children. Maya Angelou has a quote that I always quote that says, when you know better, you do better. And for my folks in Liberia, I want to speak this to you particularly. Our parents may not have had the best training or best
Mm,
knowledge when it came to parenting. What they had and what they brought to you is what they took from their parents. Their parents did not have much of it. They didn't know much of parenting from what they saw and they did their best
sure,
considering what they had. Now, some of that impacted us negatively as we grew up. We know that, there's a whole research behind beating kids, abuse, and some people prefer not to, some do, but there has to be boundaries, limits around that, right?
sure.
So when it comes to everything that we have talked about, absolutely it applies to Liberia because you have children that are human beings. And we here in America, we have kids that are human beings. That makes it universal. Developmentally, psychologically, cognitively, children develop on a spectrum. And they have to go through that developmental stages, whether they're in Liberia, whether they're in Nigeria,
Yeah,
whether they're in Asia, whether they're in America, they have to.
you know.
So,
Mhm.
as we learn these things, we want to implement it because we want to help our children be productive citizens of the future. That's the least we can do for them.
Man, we can have this conversation, but I think I'm gonna probably have you 2 weeks in a row. I'm gonna beg all the powers that be to give me next week Sunday for us to come and discuss your book. I really can't wait to get into it. If they can give it to me, my fingers and my toes crossed. So all the powers, if you're listening, I'm asking you for next week Sunday. So, but Dr. Roberts, we could definitely have this conversation as long as I want, but we have to try to wrap this up. So as we come to an end, we ending this show now. I will say my little piece here, and then I will let you kind of close the show for us. When it comes to the teenagers, yes, why it is true that we do have this fluctuation. One day the emotion is up, the next day the emotion is down. But we also have to kind of take into consideration whether you're in Liberia, in the US, or any parts of the world, children are children, like the good doctor said. And you also have to understand that society actually has a greater impact on those kids as well as they grow up. And especially those kids in the states here, they have their own societal problem. Those in Liberia, they have their own societal problem. Whether that societal problem they have in Liberia has to do with lack of resources and all of these things, how they communicate. They don't see their parents communicating, so they don't communicate. All of that has an impact on them. Another thing too that also have impact on your teenager is what we all kind of know: peer pressure.
Mhm.
That I've read so many different stories from Liberia, Doc, where I see children that grew up in good homes. I mean, it
Mhm.
used to be when I was going to school in Liberia, schools like J.J. Roberts, you will have drug addict in that school. No.
Mhm.
School like SD High School, you have drug addict. No. But you unfortunately now you have these kids going to these schools. And I enter my alma mater in Liberia. I went to the school. I said, man, is this the school I went to?
Mm.
because things have completely changed. And so peer pressure, society, and all of these different things, they have a great impact on your teenager. And if we are not careful to catch the sign and be able to address it by creating that safe space for our children, we are going to lose them in our teenage years. And when they get to
Mhm.
their adult years, I'm sorry, you've lost them 5, 6, 7 years ago. You've lost that space. So try to get your kids as early as their baby's age and continue that growth until they pass that teenage years. Because once they get into that adult years, I truly believe that's the part that the Bible says, train up a child in the way that they will grow, and that when
Mhm.
they are old, they will not depart from it. So that's
Mhm.
my piece. I'm going to let the good doctor end the show, and we will be back to shut it down.
It's always a pleasure again being on Liberia Shall Rise, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I want to speak to all of our parents listening, our teens that are listening. Uh, Resilience is something that we can build. And we want to be able to build healthy children, healthy teenagers, formulate healthy friendships, formulate healthy relationships. And in order to do that, we have to be in the right state of mind. And I want us to remember that there are many things that can negatively impact us mentally. Having that mental wellness is making sure that we focus on the positive aspect of those things that can enhance our lives. And for our parents, that means that cultivating healthy relationships with your children, where you create safe space for them to come and have a conversation with you, where they can feel safe to tell you if there is abuse or there is peer pressure, there is drugs, there is all of these things that are impacting their lives. They look to you to provide that safe space. And I'm hoping that what we share here today will be something that you can utilize to make a difference in your child's life. Thank you and have a great week.
All right, guys. On that note, we end our broadcast. But next week, Sunday, we are going to be here to be talking about this beautiful publication, Whispers Beneath the Silence. I really want you guys to read it because next week, when we're talking about this book, I want you guys to be commenting your favorite section of the book that you have read. I want you guys to comment. And I'm sorry today, I think we just had a flop with Facebook. But next week, we'll be live. We'll be able to go live with this program and things are going to be working the way it should be working on all cylinder. Go to Amazon, get your copy of the book. I think this is the yeah, I have the paperback. So go and get your copy of the book. Like I said, it is less than one good burrito. It's less than one good lunch. Get your copy. Next week, let's talk about it. You will have an opportunity to send your question to the author because I will want her to be. She will be on the show. We'll be talking. So if you have any question, we will only answer questions about people who have the book. If you don't have the book, don't even send me a question because we know where you got your question from.
All
So
right.
we look forward to seeing you next week. Doc, on that note, I want to say thank you to you, and
Yes.
I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week by the grace of God.
Yes, indeed. Thank you too.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.